Laurie Byro has been facilitating Circle of Voices poetry discussion in New Jersey libraries for 18 years. She has published widely in university presses in the United States and is included in several anthologies. Laurie has garnered more IBPC awards, Interboard Poetry Community, than any other poet, stopping at 54. She had 3 books of poetry published in 2015 and 2016. Her fourth, The Bloomsburys and Other Curiosities, was published in 2017 by Aldrich Press. Laurie received a 2016 New Jersey Poets Prize for the first poem in the Stein collection and 2017 prize for the second poem in the Bloomsburys. Laurie is currently poet in residence at the West Milford Township Library, where Circle of Voices continues to meet. Here she is, Laurie Byro. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Mary, for being with me. I brought poems for in your pocket, for Poem in Your Pocket Day. They're free over there, and they're by some perfume that I brought because Joe Malone came out with the Bloomsbury collection. So the smells of the Bloomsbury's houses is in the perfume. I thought that was kind of cool. Michael did all the covers for my books, so I left the ones out there in art form that have been still sold, but we've sold some of the covers, which is kind of cool. I'm going to start out with something. I called a friend of mine because I just got through some breast surgery issues, and I said to him, I'm going to read my poem about breasts, and he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, well, I used to look exactly like Mick Jagger. I mean, from the top up, no breasts at all. And so ironically, I ended up having to have breast surgery. So years ago, I was in a workshop, and there was a woman in the workshop, and she was talking about how her breasts were wolves and beautiful and white. And I thought, okay, well, I guess my breasts are, I wrote a poem about them being wolverines. And then somebody said to me, do you know what that is? And I'm like, no. Here's the poem. I had to turn it into a funny poem. Breasts. After my blouse dropped to the hardwood floor, the silent assessment started. He hadn't said a word, but my breasts had begun to sense fear. My breasts were wolverines. They snarled at the one who scoffed them. What I had was better than a poem. What I had was the truth finally from a man who had always lied. He hooted loudly after I warned him, and he said that my breasts were sweet wrens or perky toads. I gave him one last chance, reared back gasping, wolverines. My breasts, who after all belonged to me, lunged at this galoot with his big mouth, and while I tried to reason with them, this feral pair, these fangy beasts, began to slather and snap at the wild hair. My breasts were wolverines, and by now they were out of control, out of their minds. I dreaded what I knew would happen next. My breasts were wolverines, and one sunk its teeth into the yokel, and quick as howling, ripped his tongue out lickety-split. I hated the fact he didn't bleed like he was supposed to, or plead about death. I hated the fact that my breasts were wolverines. He continued to choke on his own bloody words. Squeaking sounds of toads bubbled from his simpering lips. I was instantly assaulted by the smell of toad piss. My breasts were wolverines. He may have been half right. The other wolverine breast began to cower and yip from the violent nature of her twin. We watched it shiver and harden her rabid heart. She began to sink into a veiny-leafed lily. Perhaps she was a frog, or wanted to be, but she was definitely not dreaming about toads. My breasts were wolverines. I, of anyone, should know the ravenous intention. All this esoteric beauty started to leave the page and scramble to the hardwood floor. This was no longer the beginnings of a poem or the unraveling of a relationship. My breasts were wolverines. After an enthusiastic denouement, they would become properly domesticated. The world would be safe from their dangerous purpose. I looked down at my wolverine breasts. Even the conversation had soured, had spoiled what we were about to do. I sniffed the room, which had a rank, musky smell. I sniffed the coppery breath of my injured paramour. I fell to my knees and prayed to the medicine gods for another 20 years. My love eyed me with suspicion. I announced I was going to keep them both. My friend, I said to him, laugh, and he said, well, it's so funny. But okay, and this is called the Wisdom of Circe. Does anyone know who Circe is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have bears that keep coming around. They do this every year, so I wrote this a while back. I wonder at the wisdom of turning a man into a bear, but as I am a goddess in training, and this particular one has pissed me off, I figure, what the hell? It's easier than breaking up again. Often they cry or say they will change. They never do. True. Pooh was a bear with very little brain, and this one is brainy enough. Enough, I say, studying every Wicca and goddess book available at the Garden State Mall. Have I mentioned I'm a Jersey girl? This should explain a lot. Bruce has done much in terms of damage control. Still, we are famous for highways and gangsters. Plus, we grow a lot of tomatoes. I may be one, slightly acerbic, goes lightly on the salt. So what do you think of my best laid plans? And he was the best, I'll give him that. My innocence and magic works. But officer, poof, he disappears. I moved to the country. My husband and I grow petunias. We live on a dirt road, a log house with a porch. Lucky for me, Jersey has a lot of malls, many bookstores, not a lot of readers, and highways that lead us out of the wilderness. The black bear that visits us nightly doesn't seem to get the message. We see him sitting on our porch, looking longingly through the window, his eyes large, wet pools. The police tell me there's nothing we can do, they say. Unless you dated him, honey, we can't issue a restraining order. Jersey girls learn to keep a zipped lip, but perhaps that is all. I try to ignore him. I tend to my garden. I hope when winter arrives he will hibernate, although he never was good at taking advice. For me, the hardest part was asking my GYN to refit me for a diaphragm. This after my husband's vasectomy. But again, you know where I live. Here we know all about conjugal visits. Did I get what I wanted? I remember while walking through the lush woodlands of my home state, I did say a prayer. Just once, let me meet a man hung like a bear. Obviously, the gods of New Jersey have a sense of humor. All right. All the books that I have are at the Warwick Library, and the only one I have left, or whatever, is the new one, Dogaressa. So you can take them out if you'd like, and there's bookmarks for everyone if they'd like them too. But I'll start with that. I got into this whole theme of writing about different people, famous people, and so this one is about Peggy Guggenheim, and then I wrote about Gertrude Stein, and the Bluesberries, and Alice in Wonderland, and all that. But I'm going to start with something serious. I was really appalled about the way people speak about Peggy Guggenheim. And even the Seligman people really kind of put her down. Or they were related, actually. But she saved a lot of Jews from being exterminated, and also art. So I think she's a heroine. And when I read that, when she was living in Venice, some of the Catholic kids that were in college were throwing dead kittens into her courtyard to punish her. I had to write this pantoum, the Dogaressa pantoum. What I was still told to my face, that modern art can only be loved by Jews. Peggy Guggenheim. Cruel kids throw dead kittens in my garden like ring petals. I am a Jewess in a town of Catholic ghosts. My babies do not bark unless there is a reason. They carry dead kittens like a trophy or a bone. I am their Jewess in a town of Catholic ghosts. They taunt me with Dogaressa, think my nose is snout. They carry dead kittens like a trophy or bone. Every night in Venice I go to sleep alone. They taunt me with Dogaressa, think my nose is snout. I try to ignore them, serve up Warhol, soup and crackers. Every night that it rains I go to sleep alone. The gardener and I mulch our blossoms with soft striped fur. I try to ignore them, serve up Warhol, soup and crackers. My babies do not bark unless there is a reason. The gardener and I mulch our flowers with soft striped fur. Children throw dead kittens in my garden like rain petals. I have 4 pushcart nominations out this year. The chances of getting one is probably like a lipstick dropping from a 7th floor building, hitting me on the head and killing me. But I hope I get one. But I'm going to read a couple of the poems that are up for pushcart. And what's flattering about it is that editors nominate you, right? Okay, so this one's called Poet. And I wrote this when I was angry because I don't have an MFA, and a lot of times poets are not asked to read unless they have some kind of a lineage, but thank goodness our friend here didn't look at it like that. So this is called Poet, and it's up for an award. There's a name that takes on status after you're dead, but alive you walk through among the trees, muttering to yourself. How bleak, they missed all that. She believed that damselflies had a smell, a witch's cauldron rising over the lake. She told them angel wings rattle in the forest. Her poems were a failed writer's mistake. Bleak, freak, chic, oh well, oblique. Does a poem have a smell? She could conjure but never spell. Even her chums with their cobweb voices, oi, she heard those voices. Cobweb noises, excuse me, oi, she heard those voices. She keeps racking up words, but never a pension. She makes politicians cringe. There is an illness for what she has. Words summon her to the fairy houses. She follows vowels home like a crusty trail. She could never write prose or something dignified. She had no lineage. Her mother was a plumber and has no MFA. Shh, you might have guessed. Her best friend says he's earnest. They praise her fast retort, the word they couldn't remember, never mind utter. You must know her poems were her children, a sordid clan, brats behaving badly. As a last resort, they praised her ability to respond with this or that quotation, left foot, right foot, through the forest. Aren't you tired of this brief and meager hobby? Why couldn't she be a lawyer and make the trains run? Gnarly, bending limbs, a rough line here or there, a strophe bends low to the ground. Only the sky should covet sound. She praised real poets, the cardinal's chatter. She'd hurl words, soft and hard, chartreuse, aquamarine, pearl. A smoldering cinder becomes a red thrush, about to burst into flame. Listen, hummingbird rests on his halo, his laureled boa of light. After she died, they said, even in silence she is articulate. Even then, we wish she'd give voice to angels. Okay, and this was another one that's up for an award. It's a magazine called That Literary Journal, which is kind of cool because you can say, I'm in That Literary Journal. It's called Snow Bees. And this really happened. My dad, when he died, the birds kept throwing themselves against the windows for like the month before. And I looked at it as a warning or something. I didn't know what it meant, but I found out later it probably meant there was a different electricity in the house. Snow bees. Before you died, you became the snow I walked through, sentinel trees, shooing moths and snow bees, same as the stories I'd been raised on, or the string of pearls I counted like ivory roses. I wished for the end of winter, even before that first day. Wrens kept hurling themselves at the windows, bursting into splinters of wing. If this were an omen, I said it was because the Snow Queen wanted pheasant, tricking the birds with reflected clouds. I apologized to the air. The clothing of the feathers never fades, a speck in the eye as the moon peels back its light. How many broken songbirds would satisfy the Snow Queen? How many walks through the dripping forest before you became that crusty wind, the crystals that came down in November? blinding us all from escaping through the canopy of winds.
Bravo.
And I wrote this for my father-in-law, who's 94, and he was not happy with me. So Franklin, maybe I could dedicate it to you, because you and I are celebrating a birthday soon, right? And we're both Taurus, so if he doesn't like it, he can trample me. The aging magician speaks to his reflection. Dear scepter, moon, and top hat, you fooled me for a time. I wrote you honest and fearless, not this cumulus face that yearns to be open, no longer able to conjure a tempest like Ariel. This island is lonely, my life not quite golden. I am the fantail ricocheting the bowl, a fanging moon about to bite my leash in 3 parts. Old, older, ancient. I can't do the trick to join the pieces together. I want the lines of my hands to lead me to a better life. Maybe I'll pull another pelt from my hat, don my best toupee, make the women loosen their hips or lose 10 pounds. Maybe I'll pass for 60 again, mesmerize all with my silver wolf walking stick. I'm not too old for dreams. I don't wish to see their grandchild's graduation pictures. Spare me yet another selfie. My girl Miranda stopped speaking to me more than 4 decades ago. I want to lasso the moon with silk scarves, dance under an orb of diamonds, set my stick to howling. I want to pretend my bones are growing tall, that I am not shrinking. I want to be invited to a masquerade ball at the Plaza Hotel, an accountant with important numbers to balance, not a fool with the usual tricks up my sleeve. I want to meet a woman in blood-red silk that she will use to lasso the moon over us. All my perplexed rabbits will escape into the free world, transforming me, not leave me alone in my collapsible hat, except for those beasts I have named, longing, regret. Not to say that you have any longings or regrets, but my father-in-law was not happy with me for writing that. Okay, this is from my first book that was published, and Michael did the cover on that too. This is called February in Mustique. We just went through such a winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literature should act as an axe for the frozen sea inside us. Franz Kafka. I spotted him just off the reefs. I thought he was a dolphin heading in the wrong direction towards Mustique, where I'd spent 9 days of tranquility studying frangipani and conch, coconut milk, and sun-brewed tea. I'd left winter. My eyes were snow moons. Back home in waffles and wool, I trudged every day to the library where I'd meet Kafka in the stacks, a shy, uptight patron. He cleared his throat when he asked for the key to the men's room. Down here, I remembered my Czech friend and wondered if he could possibly know this man who'd booked his ticket, packed his suitcase, and somehow gotten through security with an axe. Apparently, he was one of Kafka's poems. I came across Caliban again in a tropical forest as he chopped his way through native trees, flamboyant and monkey bamboo. I made him follow me back to the hotel where I offered to buy sun-brewed tea, anything he fancied. Never mind how I got him through the lobby. This rough and crafty-looking fellow. It is enough to know that after we wrestled on my bed, a picture of a Gauguin woman looked wide-eyed at the mess we'd made, and at me, out on the patio, sipping daiquiri, wrung out of my hair. I'm going to read the title poem for this. It's another true story. It was very odd. After my parents died, I really saw things, and things happened. There was a flag that had been around a tree limb that the day after my dad died was flying straight in the middle of the limb, and I felt he had moved it. And so after I died, my mother had said about butterflies, and all these butterflies kept following me at Wawayanda, and I'd be with one of my girlfriends, and she'd say, "Hey, Mom, go away," because they were following me. maybe it was wait, I can't say the word, but the stuff that comes off your skin. It must have been thank you. But this is called Luna. My mother died, by the way, of ovarian cancer, so. The Luna moth dies because it has no mouth. She learns this the summer her mother dies of the cancer. It started out like a quickening, an easy pregnancy, her mother tells her, a fluttering like wings. Her mother says New Year moths have invaded her mouth, have crawled down to her stomach, their wings furiously weaving her ribs. It is not unpleasant, she says. It can't be dangerous. Afterward, she appears as mossy slices of apple on two wings. How perfect it is that she follows her daughter everywhere, her heart beating all that summer. Her breath is as unnoticed as a morning breeze. She is fragile as a vine climbing to reach the moon. She is a stem set loose by the sky. The Luna moth alights the daughter's left hip and stays, its antennae searching the warmth of her skin. The mother fans her like a leftover queen, reverent of her hips, the bottom she used to diaper. She reads that butterflies are a sign from the fallen. Her friends say a butterfly could have been a warrior or soldier. This moth is close enough to believe in. Later, she is astonished to discover it has no mouth and will die from not eating. There are no trembling lips, no parched mouth to take in its last truth. In the end, there is no proof that her daughter will walk away from her, shining as brightly as an opalescence, a crescent of light. Thank you. All right. I'm going to read about Ernest Hemingway because a lot of people know who that is, and some people aren't as familiar with Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas. I know that sounds ridiculous, but Hemingway was kind of weird, and all these poems are about the Gertrude Stein salon and all the people that came and even the different paintings that were on the walls. But Ernest Hemingway was frightened off by Gertrude. He went one day to visit them, and he heard them arguing, and they were saying back and forth to each other, don't do that to me, pussy, don't do that to me, lovey. And he got frightened and ran away. And so when I heard that story, I had to write about that, right? It's called Hem Party. And this is the quote. Hemingway's remarks are not literature, Gertrude Stein. While visiting, I attempted to complete one true sentence, one brave phrase that would last. The skinny one muttered while she hacked the thorny long stems I brought, "Rose is a rose is a rose." Meanwhile, I wetted my hacker, waited for the husbands to arrive. I was informed I was inapproachable, a phrase that wolves use, that wild boars salivated over. A blasted sentence, would it never appear? I tried to keep it clean, my truest, unmarred diction. I tried summoning it by suggesting all sentences weren't whores. The wife told me I was naive. She said I was white and horny. She minced no words, ravished the wild air with her kitchen knife. She punctured our silence with little bursts of praise for her husband. She didn't like me. She glowered, sulked, asked me 3 times if I were staying for supper. Finally, I responded, depends, what's on the menu? A sly grin formed. Cockles, one of Puss's little fetishes. Alive, oh. Oh, I said I would pass. What were these two on about? Finally, I had started dressing my buck naked, bare as bone sentence. I had made a randy start. Picasso arrived. The dark one said, we'll send you both home satisfied with mussels. Don't worry, our picnics are delish. You do enjoy cheesy accoutrements, little nibbles, garlands in the dark. You'll have a bit of succulent tongue, won't you? Please try my fudge. The fudge was laced with marijuana. I don't know if you guys knew that, but...
LSD.
Yeah.
We have time for one more, Laurie.
Okie doke.
Yes,
I'll
hash
do one
brownies.
from the... I'll do another pushcart one. This is from the Bloomsburys. and it's about Virginia Woolf. Stones for the Apostles. Against you I will fling myself, unvanquished and unyielding, O death, Virginia Woolf. There were stones for skimming. They parted the watery sheets of her suicide like the palms of God. She had rehearsed them for years, practicing their music. She summoned them like tongues of the apostles as they announced her arrival. Like God, she had chosen a Jew. She didn't believe in him exactly. Stones beckoned her through these gates of the sacred Jews. She emptied them like soldiers, heavy and round, beautiful as spring potatoes. She divided them into each pocket. There were always plenty to share. The river needed them like bread. She would leave a trail as she sank down deeper into the brackish waters of her imagination. Down, down, touching bottom at last. She planted them like a nest of eggs. They were gorgeous, a man's hidden body. This terror of the unknown only took her under for moments, this cool lover's embrace. She had anticipated this end her entire life. She is a vessel emptying herself of words, the burden of her skin, the first awkward sentence, a last vowel escaping her mouth, churning to the surface of the river Ouse. How beautiful she shudders. My soul, now this river, free at last. Thank you.
Laurie Byro, thank you. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. We have more coffee and refreshments, and there are books for sale. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Well done, Laurie.
Thank you.